Hey, how's it going, everybody? This is Joey Galvez, one half of your host of Explain Yourself, and I want to let you guys know about a really cool book from our friend of the show, Eli Shockey. This one is called The Greylock, and it's a story where magic is a commodity. Potions are sold at corner stores. Orcs and dwarves earn a living in cubicles, not on the battlefields. But there are those who resist the house's magic's laws. Branded a criminal and forced to live as a wand for hire, there is a spell slinger they call the Greylock. Check this one out. You guys can pre-order issue 3 right now with code JAN241939, and make sure you guys are heading over to your favorite LCS and letting them know that you want Greylock number 3, and maybe pick up the first 2 issues. You could do that at the Scout web store. So make sure you guys are grabbing the Greylock number 3, JAN241939 at previewsworld.com.
Okay, everybody, welcome to the latest episode of All Too Real 2. My name is Michael E. Cullen II, and with me, as always, is
Matthew Haas.
Matthew Haas.
Yes.
So, today on the show, we have an All Too interview with actor, stand-up comic, and voiceover artist Mark Christopher Lawrence. Best known as Big Mike on the TV show Chuck, or as the esoteric DJ Tone Deaf in the 1994 satirical rap mockumentary Fear of a Black Hat. He has also appeared in films such as Terminator II, Judgment Day, Tales from the Hood, Planet of the Apes, Lost Treasure, and The Pursuit of Happyness with Will Smith. He's been on numerous TV shows like My Name Is Earl, Crossing Jordan, Heroes, Dharma and Greg, Touched by an Angel, Malcolm in the Middle, Malcolm and Eddie, Men Behaving Badly, Seinfeld, Murphy Brown. He's also featured on the radio series Adventures in Odyssey as Ed Washington, which is a really cool religious show. That's been on the air forever. He grew up in Compton, California. Really interesting stories. Really great guy to talk to. You'll know him if you see him. He's been in a lot of things, and I'm a big fan of Chuck, so I enjoyed talking to him because of that. I think I felt a little nervous interviewing him for some reason. Don't know why, but that's what happens. So, do you want to just jump right into the interview here, Matt?
Yeah, man, sounds good.
Okay, so here's my interview that I just had the other day with Mark Christopher Lawrence. All right, first off, just wanted to say thanks for taking time out to talk to us here.
Thank you, man.
Yeah. So, how are things going for you? I know the last year or so has been kind of crazy for everybody. So, just
it's been it's been rough, but I haven't really needed anything. So I think God is looking out for me.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, First off, because we talk about a lot about movies and stuff on this podcast. How did you get involved into acting and comedy and everything? What led you to that?
Well, I had a teacher in the 10th grade that got me involved in speech forensics, they called it back then. And that ultimately led to a scholarship to the University of Southern California. And but that same year in the 10th grade, my speech teacher, Mrs. Schilling, she was actually my English teacher. She introduced me to a man named Perry Brents, who was kind of my mentor. And he was at USC at the time, and he was producing these shows called Evening of Soul. And they were like a variety show, with comics. And he was friends with Rusty Cundiff, who I met when I was in 11th grade, and Rusty wrote and directed a lot of the Chappelle Show. And so Rusty and I became good friends. And but after doing one of those shows for him, the comedy bug bit me, and I went and did 3 minutes at an open mic at the Comedy Store in Hollywood.
Awesome.
And came off stage after getting bumped by Robin Williams. Robin Williams came in 2 people ahead of me and did 45 minutes. Jesus. I was supposed to go on at 10. Ended up getting up at midnight. And I came off stage, and Louis Anderson said, "Hey, you got something, kid. Keep writing." And that was the beginning of the comedy. And the same teacher put me in my first play.
That's awesome.
Which was Bus Stop. I played the learned professor in Bus Stop.
That's cool.
And, so that was when I got bit by the acting bug, but I didn't know that that's what I wanted to do until I got to USC and took a voice class for speaking and centering. I was already a junior, and the instructor says, "Well, you can't pass the class unless you do 2 monologues and 2 songs." So I did that, and then he talked me into auditioning for the Bachelor of Fine Arts acting program at USC, and I got in, and I was already a junior. So they put me in. It's a 4-year program. They put me in as a sophomore. They had 3 open slots. So myself and Tommy Ford, who was on the Martin Show as Tommy.
Oh, yeah.
He and I and this young lady, Sabrina Weber, took those 3 spots. And I started working professionally the same year in theater and in television.
That's cool.
And so that was the beginning of that. And, the rest is history, as they say.
So, you said Tommy Ford was in there too. So I know you ended up being on Martin and stuff. So was it cool to work with him later on again?
Yeah, well, it's funny. There's been two TV shows that I'm credited with that I actually did not do the work.
Oh, really?
And when you get hired as a guest star, if they write you out, if they write the part out, then you still get paid, and
gotcha.
and they still pay you residuals. So so it was that show and Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
So you weren't in either one.
I wasn't in either one.
Because I haven't seen Martin in years, so I was just assuming when it said it on Wikipedia that you were in it. So yeah,
right. But Tommy and I did a lot of other stuff together. We did a lot of theater together, and he was like a brother to me. It's like we were thick as thieves.
That's cool. So you said that Louis Anderson told you that you got something. Was that very encouraging to you? Because I know Louis is a legend. So
that was really awesome to me, because my friend Lennon, who another influence on my life, drove me to the Comedy Store, and he and I actually started doing a team comedy thing together, and then when I got to college, we sort of split up and did our separate things. But Louis, we had seen Louis several times before I even signed up for the open mic, and I just thought he was brilliant.
Yeah.
Yes. So it was great to get that feedback from him.
What was the first movie or TV show that you ended up doing as an actor?
First TV show was Hill Street Blues. That was my first audition. One of my debate speech coaches brought his friend who was an agent to see me in a play at USC, and she gave me her card. She says, "Give me a call." She says, "Let's talk about representation." And I said, "Okay." And so I call her, and she brings me into the office, and we talk about it. And, I had never auditioned for anything before other than plays, in school. And then she says, we got to get you some pictures. And I was broke, man. I'm from Compton, single parent. And she paid for my first pictures, and I ended up using those pictures for like 11 years. And finally, they were like, we should get you some new pictures because you although you look the same, these pictures have been out there for a while. So let's get some new pictures. You got some dough now. You can buy pictures. I'm like, all right.
Well, you might as well use them if you can.
Right. Hey, I got this whole box of them, so let's keep going.
It's like I had an issue where I changed the name of because I'm a filmmaker. I changed the name of my production company, but I still have, and I'm never going to be able to use them. Like about 2,000 business cards from when my old. So I'm just like,
you got to do like that sketch on In Living Color. Just scratch the number out, just right on the back of them. You go, hey, this is me, but this is the new number on the back.
Most people probably know you as Big Mike on Chuck, which I'm a huge fan of that show. So that's basically where I know you best from.
Well, I get recognized from two things mostly: Fear of a Black Hat, and Chuck.
Yeah.
So those two things is usually what people recognize me from. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And my voice from Adventures in Odyssey.
Yeah. I saw that too. First off, let's go back to the Fear of a Black Hat. How did you get cast in that?
Well, Rusty Cundiff, it's his project. He and I had been friends since the 11th grade, and he called me up one day and said, "Hey, I have this idea to do this project that shops my writing, and we're calling it the Trial of NWH."
Yeah. And
I was like, okay, yeah, I'm in. And so, we shoot it, and it's a cute little short film. I was in Canada doing stand-up, and I get a call from Rusty, probably like a year or two later. And he says, hey, ITC Entertainment Group saw the short, and they want to make a feature out of it. So where are you? I said, I'm in Canada. He says, when you get back? I said, I'm here for like 18 more days. He goes, all right, well, when you get back, let's go to work. I was like, okay. And that was how that happened.
What was that basically what like catapulted you into like people's like stratosphere, like where they noticed you and everything?
No, I think at that point I had already done Terminator II.
Oh, okay, cool.
And a lot of sitcoms by that point.
Yeah, so that's cool. What would you say has like been your like biggest challenge when it comes to acting or comedy so far in your career?
I think I've never had a complete team. Like I've had a great agent and no manager or publicist. Yeah. Or I've had a great manager and publicist was booty and not the good kind. and I've had a great manager and an agent, but no publicist, or a bad agent and a great manager. And then, so I've never had a complete team, and I think being able to put all those pieces together. And I think the first series I was on with George Wendt, had someone said that I needed to publish this at that point, I would have went ahead and did that. And I think my career would be slightly different right now.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until, after that I realized, when I'm working on a series, I got to get a publicist because they're only covering number one slot, number two slot.
Yeah.
The studio, just those two people are who they take care of.
Yeah.
So I've never had a complete team. And I think even now it's like, I have a great agent and great manager and no publicist because clearly I'm not on the show. So if I get on the show, then, we'll go ahead and pony up the dough and get a publicist.
Yeah. How did you get on Chuck, actually, back to that? Because, like I said, I'm a big fan of that show, and that's probably where I know you best from. I've just recently binged-watched the whole show again. So
I started watching it recently, too. I've never seen the end
of
it. I didn't even read the final script. I just read my stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I didn't want it to end because I was really enjoying it. So to get into it, I got an audition. It was pilot season, and I was up for 5 pilots. And Chuck, for me, wasn't even a series regular. It was guest star, possibly recurring. I read for the role of Harry Tank.
Oh wow!
And Josh Schwartz liked me, and wrote Big Mike.
Huh.
And my agents called up and said after pilot season was over, pilot season ended up being a bust. I went to network on 4 of the 5 pilots and didn't book any. And then so I was getting ready to go to Maui for a vacation just to shake off my lumps.
Yeah.
And my agent says, "Hey, when are you going to Maui?" I said, "Monday." He goes, "Oh, okay. Because you're shooting Saturday on this thing, Chuck. It's a guest star, possibly recurring. They wrote the part for you after they saw your audition, and it's probably just kind of a high and by thing, but you may recur." I was like, "Okay," and I ended up doing every episode of the first season.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you predict the show would be as popular as it was when it was on?
I had no idea. But whenever I'm on a show, I tend to watch the numbers.
Yeah.
And because my experience with the George Wendt show was that our numbers were marginal.
Yeah. And
then when the Oklahoma bombing happened, we got preempted, and I thought we're dead.
Yeah. And
sure enough, we were. They killed us. And they were going to retool the show, but George was like, "It's not the actors. So if you're going to change the actors, I don't want to do it." So that was the end of it.
Yeah.
But then, so Chuck, we were winning our time slot except for Monday Night Football and Dancing with the Stars. So we were beating everybody else.
Yeah.
But then after the writer's strike, we didn't do the back 9 because of the writer's strike. So we did the first 13 episodes. So that first 13 episodes, after Monday Night Football, we gained another million viewers. And after the strike, when season 2 started, they didn't put us right back on in our time slot. They played Heroes in our time slot for 22 episodes. So we lost a lot of followers and viewers. So then I think that was where our struggles started happening after that. And NBC, they would wait to see if they picked up any of their stuff and before they would, do the deal for Chuck.
Yeah.
And we lost writers every season because of it.
Yeah. It was, I mean, I know it was never like a huge hit, but I mean, it's got a really big cult following, which I mean, has that, like, I mean, I think that's pretty cool. Has that affected you in any way? Like your
people show up for a comedy, which is fantastic. It's like I don't think since I've been on that show, I don't think I've ever been at a show where there hasn't been Chuck fans.
That's awesome.
Which is really cool.
What would you say was the I know that I've noticed that you are very, very, very spiritual and very into God and everything. How has that influenced your career and your life?
Clearly I'm not Christ.
No.
I think as Christians we're mandated to try to be Christ-like. We try to follow his teachings, and I think I understand that I'm a flawed human being. And I understand my weaknesses, and I pray about them, and I have people pray for me and keep me held up in prayer. And I think, career-wise, I just go to work. I don't look at it as like I'm going to spread the gospel. I'm going to work. It's like whatever your day job is. People just go do their day job, and so I look at it as my day job, and I go do it.
Yeah.
If there's an opportunity, if there's an opportunity to talk to someone about God, because I feel led, then I will.
Yeah.
But it's not like I'm beating people up with it.
Yeah. And that's always good too, because you don't want to turn off people or anything.
People go, "Oh, here he comes." quick, look busy.
I mean, I'm a very spiritual person. I'm not Christian, but I was raised Catholic, so I'm kind of I just kind of I'm Baha'i myself, so I think that, like spirituality is good in our lives, and having some kind of connection to God helps, I think, in guiding your life in any way, because it's, you need something to guide you to look forward to in life and everything. Has it, helped you choose any roles or like deny anything or anything like that?
I don't think so. I think I've only turned down 3 roles my entire career, and 2 of them came on the heels of Fear of a Black Hat, where I played a rapper.
Yeah,
and they were commercials, one in Germany and one here, both selling cigarettes, and it felt like because of the rapper thing and because of the content of the commercial, it felt like they were selling cigarettes to kids, and so I passed.
Yeah.
And then the other one there was an episode of Black Jesus, and I read it, and I called my agents. I said, "Hey, I'm not trying to take the fast track to hell." It was just blasphemous.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna pass on this one." And then Rusty was consulting and directing on the final season of Black Jesus, and ended up being, after Charlie Murphy died, ended up being the what do you call it, the showrunner.
Yeah.
And so he calls me up and he says, "Hey, there's this role that I think is perfect for you on Black Jesus." And I had already told him about the fast track, and he goes, "And by the way, it's not going to send you to hell."
That's good.
Yeah. And so I ended up doing it. It was a lot of fun. But other than those 3 jobs, I never turned anything down. And in fact, I was working on an episode of Touched by an Angel.
Yeah.
And Della Reese, who was a minister, was in that show. And I had just watched Harlem Nights, where she is just brilliantly funny with Red Fox and Richard Pryor and Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of language in it. And I said to her that I had just watched it for like the 20th time the night before I flew out. And I said, "Did you ever get any flack about, the language in it?" And she starts laughing. And she goes, "Oh, Lord, they had me cussing like a sailor." And she goes, "I think you're asking me because you're conflicted about work and some of the things that you get presented with." And I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "Well, let me tell you this. The Lord is not going to open doors for you that he doesn't want you to go through." She says, "Take your work." She says, "When your work comes, take it. If people are too obtuse to understand that that's not you, that that's a character that you're playing, then that's on them." She says, "God's not going to put you where he doesn't need you." He says, and maybe you're doing that role and you're being on that set because somebody is watching you and they needed to see you and his love shining through you." And ever since then, I was just like, whatever comes up, if I like it, I take it.
Yeah. Well, that's good, because, I mean, it's hard. I know sometimes people are like, they associate an actor so much with the role that they play that they can't separate the two. But you got to realize that it's an actor playing the part. Like, I listened to an interview once recently with an actor who played a rapist in something, and people were like threatening his life because he played a rapist. And it's just like, he's like, "I'm not a rapist. I just played one on TV." It's just not like,
Exactly. People are very thick-headed that way.
Yeah.
Right? For example, when I worked with Will Smith on Pursuit of Happyness, when it came out, I ended up doing comedy on a cruise ship, and they were playing it on a loop on the ship in different languages. So any given time of day or night, you turn the TV on, flipping through, you'll see it. And so people were coming up to me going, "Why didn't you give him that money?" And they were just so intense about it. I said, "You realize I'm not the real guy, right?" and it was Will Smith, and chances are I needed the $14 more than Will.
I mean, it's like Will Smith isn't Hancock, too, either. You know what I mean? It's like people don't think don't think he has superpowers.
Right. Pretty sure he's not going to be able to fly.
Yeah. How's stand-up been lately? Like since the pandemic and everything?
It was when the pandemic started, I was really busy in 2019. I mean, it's like comedy wise, I really started to take off.
Yeah.
And I think it was because of dry bar comedy. I was really getting a lot of bookings and toured Canada twice. And then all of a sudden the brakes slammed. I remember I finished a tour in Canada in February, came home, had a couple of days off, and then had a series of auditions, and then I had one last audition like the second week of March, and then I was getting ready to get back on the road again. And I did that audition. I called my agents. I said, I think we got this one. And right the next week, I started getting phone calls and text messages. Hey, we're going to have to reschedule, emails, we're going to have to cancel. There's a company that I was doing 4 events a year for as a host, corporate thing, and that went away. And from mid-March to July, everything that I had set up was gone. Yeah. And then as we got close to July, then the rest of the year disappeared. And but in June, that one movie came back, so I did that movie in Oklahoma right before their numbers spiked. Yeah, and I got out of there just in the nick of time. Yeah, and I think my biggest fear in Oklahoma at that point was we were shooting at this campground, and the second AD, by the time I left, had picked 26 ticks off of himself.
Jeez.
And I was like, so every night I get to the hotel all freaked out. And I'd get into a hot tub with Epsom salt and green alcohol just to make sure I didn't have any ticks on me. And then at the end of the year, right before Thanksgiving, I get a call for an audition for Tyler Perry's show. A new drama called All the Queen's Men. And so I was actually taking a little mental break and took a trip up to Sacramento and then popped over to Reno. And while I was in Sacramento, I got the audition for the Tyler thing and did it, just self-taped, sent it in. Yeah. And by the time I got home, it was like, hey, they want to hire you. And then, right before Thanksgiving, they sent somebody to give me a COVID test, 2 days before Thanksgiving. And then took another COVID test 3 days before I flew out. And then they flew me out of LA on a private plane with 22 or 23 other members of the cast that were coming out of LA. And then we get there and you go into the parking structure, take another COVID test. They put you up in your house on campus and you stay in your room for 4 hours until all the tests come back. And then they open up camp. 2 days later, you take another COVID test. You get your temperature taken every morning, and then a COVID test every 4 days until you leave. Wow! So it was a safe bubble, and really a great time, and it was fun doing the job. And it's funny thing is I made a really good friend who shared the house with me. There were 2 actors to a house, and so Craig Mums, he was on Oz. Remember that show Oz? Yeah. He was the poet on Oz. Oh, okay. And he and I really hit it off because we were close in age, and we really hit it off. And when it was time to do some pickup shots, he and I talked that Sunday before we were supposed to start working the next week. And then that Wednesday, he was in North Carolina working on something. And that Wednesday, he passed away. Oh, jeez. And so it's just, it's been that kind of year for me. This year, like I lost 13 people from January. Well, 14 because we lost one today. So 14 people since January, and 9 to COVID. Jeez. So it's been a rough haul. But comedy during the pandemic was online, and I hated it. Yeah. It was so painful. There was only one show that I did online that I loved, and it was with Jason Earls. But he did it like a talk show and just sort of set you up so that you just hit jokes during the conversation. And that was great, but the ones where they say, "Okay, yeah, you're wrong," it's like just hated. I did a corporate thing for Microsoft, and it was 20 minutes they wanted, and they had sent charcuterie plates to their employees, and so they're all sitting there with wine and charcuterie, and animals are running through, and kids.
Could you hear them for laughter and stuff?
Turned out okay. They sent me the money, so
yeah. Could you hear the audience for laughter or anything, or
you could hear it. Sometimes, like I did about 5 of those type of shows, and sometimes they turn the audience off, and I was like, turn them on. Otherwise, I'm just going on autopilot.
Yeah.
I did a show in a park one night with it was called Drive Up Comedy. So they had a stage, and it was well lit. And then they had a big screen. People sat in their cars, and it was piped into their radios. So you couldn't see them, and you couldn't hear them laughing. But when they would laugh, they would flash their lights and blow their horns. So all the comics were hating it. And then I just said to myself, I'm just going to go on autopilot and just not wait for laughs. And I had a great set.
Yeah, that's just got to be kind of painful because, the interaction of an audience is what's best about anything live.
Right. And I think my act depends on it. It depends on, I think it's probably because even as an actor on stage, this director said to me that I have an audience bone. He says, you rehearse one way. He says, and we at this point, I think I had done like 6 plays with him. He says, and I watch you in rehearsals. He says, but as soon as that audience in, you kick it into another gear.
Yeah.
And it's like, I said, because I feed off the audience. It's just like, and when they're not there, if you can't see them, if you can't connect with them, it hurts.
Yeah, I know. I've done a lot of theater myself, and I know that the reaction of the audience to what you're saying or doing is important. And then I've done a few like independent films, like acting on. I direct as well, but acting in them, and it's just so weird to me when I first started doing that because you're kind of used to having an audience, and then when you don't, it's a different animal altogether.
Right, it's a different way to work.
Yeah,
and the funny thing is it's when I'm doing film, it doesn't bother me that nobody is laughing or crying.
Yeah,
because I know that I'm just playing the scene with my scene mate or whatever.
Yeah,
but with comedy, it's like I'm expecting people to laugh.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of things. I've talked to a couple other stand-ups about this, and they've had issues with this whole drive-in or Zoom comedy and stuff from there. Yeah,
most comics don't like it.
No,
and the ones the ones that do, the way I look at it is one of two things: either they're very new at it, or not very good at it.
Yeah. That makes sense. So when is that did that Tyler Perry thing already air, or is it going to air?
August. It premieres in August. All the Queen's Men on BET Plus.
Nice. Yeah, because I was curious about that. Check that out. Yeah. And speaking of your dry bar, I watched that recently, and it's just hilarious.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love the dry bar comedy stuff because, doing, having people that do clean comedy is kind of cool. I'm okay with the dirty stuff too, but, just as long as it's not, not like blasphemous or anything. But that dry bar comedy scene is really kind of cool. Where do they, where was that recorded?
In Provo, Utah.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So before I went, a friend of mine called me and asked me, "Hey, Mark, have you ever done dry bar comedy?" I said, "No, I don't even know what that is." And so she sends me a link, and I look at it, and I go, "Oh, some people that I know around here. It's really funny." And she goes, "Well, I'm gonna refer you." And so she did, and it just happened that they had a show coming up in 2 weeks, and I was able to get on. And they send you an email that has what Provo clean is as opposed to just clean.
Yeah.
Because they want it squeaky. And I was like, well, I need churches. So
Yeah.
And I says, I'll be fine. And then I realized that I had 4 things that were censored in my act. And I don't know what they are, but I noticed, when I'm watching, there's a thing down there that says 4 censors. And so as a viewer, you can turn them on or turn them off.
Oh, wow.
And so a friend of mine said, yeah. He says, Provo, he says, this is Provo Clean. Apparently, you can have 10 wives, but you better not call one of them fat.
That's weird.
It was so funny.
Because I mean that's all like Mormon country, right? Up there, right?
Yeah.
So my ex-fiance who I broke up with years ago, she was raised Mormon, so I know a lot. She had like all these restrictions when she was a kid of things she could and couldn't do. So it was just So I understand their bit of clean is different than other people's clean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, just like club clean is not necessarily church clean.
Yeah, that's true.
Like a lot of stuff that's clean for a club you cannot do in a church.
Yeah. Sometimes clean could be just you're not saying bad words, but then there could be
the body parts and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And the topic too could be dirty and
exactly
church mind.
And I was lucky. Because I started comedy in 11th grade, I couldn't be dirty.
Yeah.
I still lived in my mother's house. Her friends from church, somebody would see me, out doing dirty comedy somewhere, and be calling her up, girl, you need to talk to that Mark Christopher, because he out there saying all kinds of nastiness. So I couldn't be dirty, Yeah. And then I was lucky enough to work with a bunch of comics that told me, write clean, because you can work anywhere.
Yeah.
Robin Harris, he was probably one of the funniest comics I've ever seen. It's like he hosted a show for years, the Comedy Act Theater in Leimert Park in LA, and people came to see him.
Yeah.
Everybody else was just on his show. It's like, and he was so funny, and he would be dirty, during the Comedy Act Theater shows, and I would open for him like on a Saturday at 2:00 in the park, and squeaky clean, same act.
Yeah.
And he says, Mark, write clean. He says, a joke that's dirty by premise, you can't clean up. He said, but a clean joke, if you're out in the middle of nowhere and everybody is doing filthy jokes and that's what the audience needs, you can dirty a joke up, but you can't clean a joke up. It's dirty by premise.
Yeah.
And I was like, good. So he liked working with me in those situations because I was always clean.
That's good advice.
Yeah.
Robin Harris was a legend. I mean,
oh, so funny.
So funny. Yeah. Yeah. So sad that he died so young and everything too. So yeah.
Yeah. It was like during Harlem Nights. It's like I thought, this is going to blow him up. This was his big break, and then he died shortly after that. I worked with him Thursday and Friday, and I was supposed to work with him the following Wednesday at the Compton Casino, and he didn't show up.
Wow.
And they said, and he had died, and they said, Robin's not going to be here, so we're going to need you to do some more time. And I said, well, I know how much money Robin makes, so I'm going to need some more money. and that was the first time I headlined, was that night.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty cool. What do you have anything coming up like anytime soon? Like any other projects or any any movies or any stand up or anything coming up?
I'm pitching a show right now. Rusty and I are pitching a show. We're one pitch away from figuring out where to go with it. We're pitching Luba Rockland Entertainment, and then I got a call, an email from David A.R. White. I'll probably be doing something for PureFlix in July sometime.
Nice.
So I think they're starting around the 8th of July. So shortly after that, I guess I'll go to work for a week.
That's really cool.
So that'll be fun, yeah. And then comedy. I'm like this weekend. I'm in in Dinuba, which is which is Central Valley, California.
Oh, okay.
And then so I'm there, and then I go from there to do a show in Monterey on Father's Day.
Yeah.
In Monterey.
Nice.
Yeah.
What kind of advice would you give to anybody that's interested in getting into comedy or acting or anything of that nature that my listeners might be interested in hearing?
Get some training. No matter what you're going to do, you'll try to be the best at it. Get some training, work hard at it, because people are good. People are very good in it. Like as an actor, I always tell people if you don't get training and you show up to an audition and you see me sitting in there, you're not getting the job.
Yeah,
because I'm ready.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of actors that are ready. So get some training, get as much training as you can. Good looks is not enough, and I've been pretty a long time, but
exactly.
It's still jumping through the hoops. So
yeah,
get some training, train, and when you think that you're the best you can be at your craft, train some more. And comedy. A lot of times people think because they're funny at work or funny at school with their friends that you can go up and be funny on stage. And, it's very rare that happens.
Yeah.
Know exactly what you're going to say before you get on stage. Because the thing about being at work and at school, your friends set you up.
Yeah.
So that you can hit jokes out of the park. It's like you're telling a story and they're helping you and they're playing your straight man. So as a comic, you're by yourself. You got to set yourself up. So definitely write jokes, know what you're going to say. Many comics have started and finished in one night.
Yeah. I've actually seen it happen. So
yeah.
I've gone to a lot of open mics locally and stuff. And yeah, I've seen some people that I had a friend go up and he's just like, yep, that's it. I'm done.
Yeah,
okay.
It's not for everybody. That's for sure. Where are you located?
Toledo, Ohio.
Oh, Toledo.
Yeah.
It's not for everybody.
No.
What's the chain out there?
We have a Funny Bone locally.
Funny Bone.
Yeah. We used to have
been a Funny Bone in years. I got to get out there.
Yeah, we used to have a local Connections Comedy Club, which was in Toledo itself, and then I used to go there a lot, and then it closed because people just stopped coming because Funny Bone I think kind of took people away. So yeah, but at least we still have something here.
Yeah, good. I think there's a influx of clubs coming back.
Yeah,
like in the '80s, there was a lot of comedy on TV. There was Evening at the Improv. There was Caroline's Comedy Hour.
Yeah,
there's all this comedy on TV. People stopped going to clubs, and it killed a lot of clubs.
Yeah,
but now clubs are coming back. Like San Diego is really emerging as a nice hub of comedy.
Yeah.
There's the Madhouse. There's the Comedy Store, American Comedy Company. There was the Comedy Palace, but they just sold to somebody else. They're renovating the space, and they're going to continue to be a comedy club. So there's 4 full-time comedy clubs there.
Nice.
And then tons of one-nighters. So there's I think an influx of comedy around the country. And I think, with the year that we've had, or a couple of years, we need comedy. We need to laugh. We need to embrace each other and support each other and lift each other up and help each other understand that just because we don't look alike, we're not the same. We all bleed the same.
Yeah, we all bleed red.
Yeah.
So, hopefully. I mean,
red, white, and blue.
Yeah. America. One question I always like to ask people, just out of curiosity, what is your guilty pleasure movie or TV show?
Oh man, that's a tough one because it changes.
Yeah,
because there was a period where Swamp People, was my show, and then Bootleggers was my show, and then Dirty Jobs.
Yeah,
and so now I think I don't think there's anything that, because of binging, I end up watching all of it in a few days. I'm just greedy with it. But I did watch A Night in Miami.
Yeah.
And I love that. And then recently I watched Them on Netflix.
Yeah.
And it brought back just a rush of memories. You know, I grew up, we were the second black family on our street in Compton.
Okay. Wow.
And I guess I had suppressed a lot of memories. And the people that live right next door to us, our driveways touched. And that was the only kid that I remember playing with. And as I was watching that thing, man, it's like I started remembering whenever I would go outside, all these other kids, their parents would make them come in the house.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of like Them.
Yeah.
And, you know, but I was too young to understand it. I was, you know, when we moved to where my mother lives to this day, you know, I was in the first grade, so I didn't understand it.
Yeah.
You know, I just saw another kid. Hey, I want to play with that kid. And his parents made him come in the house.
That's so sad. I mean, because that's something that's taught, not something that, you know, you're born with.
I've been saying that for years, that racism is a taught behavior. It's a learned behavior. You're not born racist. And if you say you are, slap yourself.
Yeah, because there's no reason. I mean, because like you said, you put two kids together, it doesn't matter what race or background they are. They're gonna play in some way, you know, because that's
kids. A kid. Exactly.
Yeah.
I want to play with that kid.
Yeah. It's just, because I mean, I've seen it every day, you know, like my nieces and nephews, you know, they don't care who.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. They don't.
No.
It learned behavior. So it's time to learn something else.
Yeah.
How about learn love?
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, if we all just, I mean, you can't, you know, obviously you can't, like, I mean, when people say, oh, I don't see color, you know, that's another story, but.
Right. Well, if you don't see color, then you don't see me and my plight.
Yeah. Because you got to know, you know. I mean, we got to realize we have differences, but the thing is we have more in common than we have different, but we also have the whole, you know.
Exactly.
The whole, you know, you just got to understand people's struggles and understand people's joys, understand people's pains, you know, just kind of.
Right.
Yeah.
And how does someone else's pain affect me?
Yeah.
And you know, what can I do to help? Yeah. You know, one of my best friends said to me, right after George Floyd died, he says, you know, I don't understand the Black Lives Matter movement. He says, you know, this burning of stuff. I said, well, you know, if you watch some of those videos, it's not the Black Lives Matter people that are burning stuff. I said, it's others.
Yeah. I
said, and the thing is that, I said, Richard, as my friend, I know your heart. I know who you are. I said, but I think what needs to happen is people like you who have friends who look like me, you know, need to just start being vocal about, you know, the love that's there and you know, when you see something that's not right, say something.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I work at a Walmart, and I was in there one day, and this I heard this like, you know, stereotypical racist looking white guy in there making fun of these Muslim people that walked in, or Middle Eastern people. I'm assuming they were Muslim because they were wearing the thing and they were making fun of them. I walked up to him and I was like, dude, that's not cool, you know. And he's like,
yeah.
But then he took it out on me. He's like, why are you defending them? And I'm like, because I can, you know, it's just
right. Because somebody needs to, because clearly, you know, you're not elevated enough.
No. Yeah. And it's like, yeah. And then, you know, of course he was going to try to call the manager on me. And I'm like, yeah, go ahead. They'll defend me. I know they will. So, but yeah, it's just, you know, you got to stick up for people. And I mean, that's like, you know, you can't, you know, especially if you have privilege like I do as a white man, you know, but you got to kind of just stick up for people. And that's and not let other people talk you out of it, because, you know, we're all one human family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Anything else you'd want to promote or talk about before we wrap things up here?
No, I think we pretty much covered it all. You know, look me up on markchristopherlawrence.com and you know, join me, you know, on Instagram and All my social media buttons are on there. I just started TikTok the other day. I've had the app for 2 years and never used it.
Yeah.
And so finally I started doing something on it the other day, and I was like, oh, okay, I get it now.
Yeah, I got the app the other day. I still don't get it, but I'll.
Yeah.
It's like every time one of these new social media things comes out, I'm like, I'm
Right.
I'm 43, and I'm like, what are the kids doing these days? You know, so it's
Right.
just
Exactly. That's kind of what my post was.
yeah,
You can see it on Instagram. But also, check out my dry bar. I think
Yeah.
that actually helps me keep a roof over my head.
yeah. It's hilarious too. I mean, it's one of my favorite of the dry bars that I've seen. So it's great. Yeah, and I just wanted to thank you again for taking time out to talk to me. Really appreciate it. Big fan of your work, and
Thank you.
yeah. And if you ever want to have anything to promote or anything, you want to come back on, just message me and let me know.
Absolutely. I'll hit you up. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. And you have a good night and good sets this weekend at your comedy gigs.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it, man.
Thanks, Mark.
Take care of yourself. Have a fantastic weekend.
You too. Bye.
All right. God bless.
Okay, that was my interview there with Mark Christopher Lawrence. Some great stories there. Yeah, little bit of, there might have been a little bit of, I apologize for any of the background noise there. He was recording it in the lobby of a hotel when on his way to a gig, so so we got some background noise in there, which is fine, because that's life, man. That's life. Some great advice there.
He gets a character,
Yeah, and we had some good stories there about his about talking to Della Reese on Touched by an Angel and different things like that, which I really enjoyed. He's a very spiritual guy, which I think is really cool. That, I mean, whatever your religious beliefs or not are cool, and I think when you're true to yourself in your craft and realize that you can play characters who are bad and it's fine, even if you're a very religious person, because you're not that character. That's something that people need to understand when you're talking about an actor. They're not that character. I mean,
oh no,
Robert Downey Jr. is not Iron Man. I'm just saying.
No.
So,
Yeah, I mean, it's like like, for example, like what would this religious figure think about Batman Dark Knight Rises? I mean, it's not naming names, but
yeah. Yeah, you never know. Anyway, so it is what it is, and so I mean, it was really cool. I mean, make sure Mark is a hilarious stand-up, and one of the ways that you can help him out is check out the Dry Bar Comedy special that he did, Clean Outta Compton, and it's hilarious. Hilarious, clean comedy. I mean, something you can listen to with your kids and still get laughs and everything. It's good comedy. You don't have to be dirty to be funny.
See, that's what right there is that takes a lot of talent, because anyone could just say a bunch of bad words or be shocking or whatever, and get some nervous laughter out of people. You know what I mean? But
yeah, it's like Mark was saying in the interview. He was talking about the fact that he was taught by some people, in his past, that write clean, you can always make it dirty,
right?
But you can't always make something dirty clean. Is basically the premise. So he's like, if you write clean, you're going to always be able to work. You can open up for anybody. If you write clean, you can go on tour with Brian Regan or something, and then who's known for being a clean comic, and but you could probably still do those same jokes with Chris Rock or somebody. You know what I mean? It's just whatever whatever you do. And I mean, that's a good lesson, because the thing is like, a lot of people will think that it's just funny to say the F word, or it's funny to, be gross or something like that. But the thing is if there's no craft behind that, you're just saying the F word for the sake of saying the F word and getting a giggle out of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, it kind of reminds me. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, you go ahead.
Well, okay, I was just saying, it kind of reminds me of, practicing music, because, like, one of the things, they would teach us in, like, orchestra or whatever when I was, like, younger is, actually try to learn the song faster than what it actually is, so that when you actually play at a normal speed, it's not like you're struggling so hard, to do it.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different, but kind of see a sort of similarity of that, Yeah,
I mean, it's kind of like in art. They want you to learn how to paint a bowl of fruit like it looks first, and then you can draw. Then you could draw or paint an abstract version of that bowl of fruit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, like I said, be sure to check out. We'll have some links in the show notes to stuff about Mark Christopher Lawrence, and another thing too. Watch Chuck if you haven't yet. It's on it's on Amazon right now. It's probably one of the best like spy shows that was ever on TV. Really funny, really great, and Mark is hilarious in it. So, anyways, that was Mark Christopher Lawrence. Anything else before we wrap things up here, Matt?
No, that's good.
Okay. Well, until next time, go to our. There's one thing you can go to our Patreon. Check out our Patreon there. We got some cool stuff that's in the links. Check out our TeePublic. Get some cool shirts. Also, give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast. That helps out the show more than you would know. I mean, it helps people find us. And be kind. Rewind. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. I really don't.
It's okay. I mean, it doesn't mean anything really.
Yeah.
I mean, it does. It does and doesn't. It's like it's a paradox.
But actually, you know what we should say? Be kind and live in the present.
Ooh, I like that.
Yes.
Actually.
Be kind, live in the present, and give each other presents.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Even if it's just the presence of mind. See what I did there?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways.
I did.
All right. Until next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to All Too Real 2 podcast, a Cullen Park production. Produced and edited by Michael E. Cullen II. Music by Matthew Hawes. Subscribe and share the show. Visit us at cullenpark.com.